This is Bagan. An ancient city in central Myanmar. After years of trying, it's now been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And I've traveled to Bagan to see the place and meet the people to find out how much of an impact this new listing will have. It wasn't always a given, despite the city being home to thousands of monuments and a rich cultural heritage. In 1995, Myanmar nominated Bagan as a World Heritage Site. But proper records were needed for the listing. And back then, Myanmar's paperwork didn't make the cut. It also didn't have a proper plan to prove it could develop Bagan. But the country didn't give up. Step by step, it pieced together what it needed to get the listing. I first meet an official in the ancient city. He tells me that for a start, a roll call of monuments was made. They found a total of 3,822 pagodas. Such collaboration is vital because Bagan's precious monuments can be destroyed anytime. These are clear signs of how vulnerable monuments here are to disasters. Several earthquakes have hit the ancient city. The latest, in 2016, destroyed nearly 400. And so Bagan came up with a proper plan to protect its monuments. To help me understand how this works, I meet a retired local who's an expert on the monuments here. We meet at Ananda Temple, one of the biggest in Bagan. This expert explains to me how monuments can be strengthened to withstand earthquakes. See the lighter shade of bricks? Underneath them is a cement belt that wraps around this building. So when an earthquake occurs, the belt will hold the structure together. More than 30 monuments in Bagan have so far been fitted with these belts. Perhaps knowing that a disaster can strike anytime isn't a bad thing. At least Bagan is now prepared for it. I also learned to see the silver lining amid disasters. So yeah, I'm seeing two different colors on the walls of this temple, this red painting and this bricks. What's going on here?
Because of the earthquake in 1975, some of the plaster, red color, pulling down. Now we live to show the pilgrims how they laid the bricks and stone, the sandstone between the bricks.
So sandstone, is it a very common material to build pagoda?
Yes. Today, nowadays, we use the reinforced concrete, cement concrete. Yeah, but I see here, the beautiful painting under the 4 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. What are these layers?
Lime wash.
I'm told that the inner walls of this temple are now left as they are, so that visitors can see that bit of history. Another important step Myanmar took was to tighten its policies on monuments. In February this year, it passed one more heritage law, making it a total of 3 laws the country now has to restrict what can be built on historical sites.
We have now 3 laws, so the 3 laws is enough to protect the heritage. The hottest zone is, the greater challenge.
This was something I noticed driving through the city's heritage zone. Over the years, hotels have sprung up, and experts say their construction so close to ancient monuments has been harmful. critics also maintain the hotels are an eyesore. While I was in Bagan, I visited a new hotel that was being built near the sacred monuments. 1, 2, 3. 3 steps. That's the distance between this new hotel and this ancient monument within the archaeological zone in Bagan. When asked about this, the hotel's developer said it was a United Nations agency that first allowed it to build hotels in that zone.
Actually, the site was chosen by the United Nations. It's a UNDP project. So they have studied the tourism, and then they see there is an opportunity for Myanmar to accepting the international traveler. So they are encouraged that area to become a tourist site.
But that's all changed now that Bagan's become a World Heritage Site. Under the new plan, hotels in the archaeological zone will have to move out within 15 years. Meanwhile, changes in Bagan are slowly taking shape. Tourism investors tell me Bagan's new status means more visitors and more opportunities.
Bagan is great, but it can be even better. So how we actually design the trails, how we actually design in a way that's explorational, rather than just going to see a few temples and just learning the heritage. That side is important, but it's how to design that experience all in one package.
I have a few days left to go before I leave Bagan. I've seen majestic pagodas and met those who want to see the area boom as a tourist destination. After the break, I meet the local people, those who've grown up here, and those who are coming to realize that the UNESCO listing could prove to be a double-edged sword. It's slightly after lunchtime in Bagan, and these men are at work on a craft that's come down through the years from their ancestors. It's their livelihood and a source of pride. I'm in Bagan, the ancient city that's now a World Heritage Site. But today, instead of the majestic pagodas, I'm here to meet the people who live here. I'm at a lacquerware workshop, a typical setup across villages in Bagan. They're the deft hands behind Bagan's quality lacquerware products. And these craftsmen hope that with the city's newfound World Heritage status, more international tourists will get to see their work.
Where we need to teach them how to do it, for some way, be me, for some way, yam is on body. As when you know, they will go down and teach them how to do me. Can't go yara.
For me, it's an eye-opening experience to see how skillful these artists are. But what I loved best about my visit here is to see for myself just how much these craftsmen enjoy what they do. Now, these men are long-time friends. They are schoolmates, neighbors, some even family. So watching them at work and enjoying it is definitely one way to see a different side of Bagan. I also experienced a side of Bagan I didn't expect. Horse carts. Now, they may look like tourist gimmicks, but this is how people of the past used to travel. And in keeping with Bagan's heritage culture, locals here want to maintain this tradition. I'm told that the horses work for about 6 hours every day, and they won't be made to run for more than an hour without rest. With that assurance, I can't wait to get on one of them. Cho-cho, or sweetie in Burmese, is one of about 200 horses in Bagan providing transport services. So today, Cho-cho may be ferrying a visitor like myself, but other passengers could well include housewives going to the local market or villagers going to one of the 3,800 ancient pagodas. I must say, viewing ancient pagodas while riding on a traditional horse cart, well, that's as authentic as it can get. Such features prove to be a win-win for Bagan. Although Bagan's centerpiece is definitely the sacred monuments, with some dating back to the 11th century, I also enjoy the side attractions this ancient city has to offer. For instance, this daily ritual which I chanced upon one morning. Rows of monks collecting their daily alms from villagers. It's the Buddhist community's way of giving back to the monks in return for their blessings and religious services. And the other morning, while jogging here, a villager who saw me worked up a bright smile and greeted me with a hearty good morning. During my stay in Bagan, I've come to feel the warmth and hospitality of the locals.
Going forward, we have to engage with the local community, of course, because we also see that tourism is set to grow in Bagan, no doubt. So the local communities need to adapt themselves to this growth as well, and they need to embrace it in somewhat.
And I find that every local can be your tour guide. Mr. Aung Chang, who's lived here all his life, is a retired heritage expert. He tells me all that he knows about Ananda Temple, one of the biggest in Bagan.
Here, the beautiful painting under the foliage. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. What are these layers?
Lime wash.
Mr. Aung Chang showed me that walls were whitewashed in the past for various reasons. It kept the interior cool, and white represents purity. In 2012, the Indian government worked with Myanmar to restore the murals. The whitewash was removed.
Yeah, one panel, one story.
Oh, okay.
One panel, one story.
So, okay, let's start with this. What story does it tell me?
Bodhisattva.
Right.
Explaining to his followers.
Bodhisattva and the followers. One unique feature of this temple is that it showcases just how clever designers of the past were. Now, this entire area in front of me is marked out for devotees to gather in front of the Buddha statue. That's because from our point of view, if we look up, we can actually see that the Buddha statue is smiling upon its devotees. But if you take a quick walk with me, and I'm still walking within the area that's marked out for devotees. Beyond this area, for some reason in the past, designers may want to keep devotees away from the Buddha statue, because the closer we come to the Buddha statue, and from this point of view, if we were to look up, you can actually see that the Buddha statue is not smiling as heartily as when we were back there. In fact, you can see that it has a straight face. Locals I meet tell me they're excited to have more tourists visit them. During my trip, I've met painters who tell me how they used to run around Bagan as kids, freely scaling pagodas, which is now prohibited by law. Some also shared with me folklore passed down by their parents. Stories of guardian spirits spotted near pagodas, said to be keeping an eye on buried treasures. And how some guardian spirits would sometimes fall in love with mortals. And as I digest these stories about Bagan, I see the wealth of its legacy and how its past has enriched its future. In time to come, this ancient capital, with its new status as a World Heritage Site, may grapple with the issues facing Japan's Kyoto, home to several UNESCO heritage sites. My colleague Michio Ishida will bring you that story next.
I'm Michio Ishida in Kyoto. Kyoto was the Japanese capital for 1,000 years until the capital was moved from Kyoto to Tokyo. Now, Kyoto is home to 2,000 temples and shrines, and there are 17 sites designated as UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Sites. But they're not necessarily all benefiting from this designation. I'll tell you more about this. But first, let me show you around and tell you a bit about this ancient capital. Visitors in rented traditional wear, walking along this picture-pretty alley leading to a temple, regardless of the heavy rain. Here, proud craftsmen make everything from scratch. This 33-year-old creates chochin or paper lantern from scratch. He strips bamboo to form the frame. His father does the calligraphy. Preservation of the tradition, old and not so old, but with significance to the development of the country, is the pride of Kyoto, the cultural capital of Japan. And this brings us to this week's theme: conservation of treasured heritage sites. Originally a country house of an aristocrat, Ryoanji was sold in 1450 to a top warlord of the time and used as a Zen training temple. It is not known when it was exactly built by whom. Ryoanji is known as a place where Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, often visited. He came here, sat here to meditate. Now, there are supposed to be 15 stones floating on the Sea of Gravel, but it's quite difficult to find all of them. The dry landscape attracts 1 million visitors every year. 50% are from overseas. The history of this World Heritage Site is quite clear. It was completed in 1626 under the order of Japan's most famous feudal lord, Tokugawa Ieyasu. The Tokugawa shogunate wielded power from Edo, today's Tokyo. But the imperial court was in Kyoto, so family members of the shogunate would stay at the castle when they visited. In 1939, the castle was donated to the Kyoto city and has been open to the public. Shimogamo Shrine is regarded as one of the oldest shrines in Japan, with a history of over 2,000 years.
二柱の神様をお祭りしてるんですね。この神様がですね、鴨竹津海の命というのがまずは男の神様でございまして、神話によりますれば初代の天皇陛下であります神武天皇という人物を導いた巨大な三本足のカラスに化身された神様だと言われておりまして。
The other god is the daughter of Kamo Taketsunumi no Mikoto. It drew imperial patronage when Kyoto became the capital of Japan. Another site with deep ties with the imperial family is Ananda Temple. Many of the priests here used to come from the imperial lineage.
あそこの社室が第119代広覚天皇さんという方がご愛用になった茶室なんですよ。その方の兄さんがここの門跡でしてね、この天皇さんから今の天皇さんが直結なんです。
Standing behind us, the oldest existing structure in Japan built for the emperor. The Goden was built in 1613. Most of the structures in Kyoto burned down after the Onin War of 1467 to 1477, regarded the biggest war in Japan. So much of what you see in Kyoto is actually rebuilt. Fire has constantly been a major threat to the precious assets, as many are made from wood. Lately, typhoons have battered the area. And parts of the roof above the holy room was damaged too. All the artworks are original. Fortunately, damage was limited.
修復にはどれぐらいの予算を？
大体これで2億ぐらいですかね。
これはこちらで賄えるんです。これ保険かなんかで。
国がですね、7割災害で出してくれることになったんですよ。
It will take until March next year for complete repair. Shimogamo Shrine suffered damage from last September's typhoon. 120 trees in the deep forest collapsed. Scars are hardly visible today thanks to the help of volunteers who spent 3 full days to clear the path to the shrine. Donations poured in too.
21年に1回こちらにあります、建物だとかをこう建て替えておったんですね、昔は。なんですけれども文化財の保護ということで、今のものがいわゆる完全に壊すことができなくなってしまいましてですね、現在では、一部例えばこの屋根の部分だとか、もしくは塗りの部分だとかこういうところを修繕して、式年遷宮とさせていただいている状態なんですね。
Regular reparation is estimated at 2 billion yen, about 18.5 million US dollars. For temples and shrines that are full of tourists, funding may not be an issue. They can make do with admission fees to special exhibitions, offerings, and sales of lucky charms, but it's only a handful that are profiting from the influx of tourists.
17の世界遺産があるんですけど、同時にその時その世界遺産に、申請しないって言わはったところもあるのでね、世界遺産同等の価値があるところはあと2、30あるんじゃないかなと、こういうことなんですけど。
Ninnaji has been struggling to draw more tourists.
これがやっぱり50万を超えますとね、少し余裕ができて。
He expressed his unhappiness that less prestigious temples draw huge crowds just because they receive more media exposure. But complaining does not do anything. It's opened the Hall of Kannon, which houses 33 gods and goddesses, to the public for the first time since the hall was completed in 1646. It's also planned to renovate an accommodation complex for priests into a luxury villa for rent. The national budget to preserve, repair, and promote national treasures and cultural assets totals an annual 52 billion yen, or $484 million a year. Analysts say it's much less than what France allocates to its assets. Some experts think more financial support is needed. But there's hope. The Agency for Cultural Affairs is planning to move its headquarters from Tokyo to Kyoto in 2021. This is expected to increase the central government's communication with Kyoto, where many World Cultural Heritage sites are suffering from financial difficulties. Kyoto is indeed a lovely place. It has history and a deep understanding of the importance of preservation. I hope you enjoyed this version of Correspondents' Diary. I'm Michio Ishida in Kyoto.